Hello and welcome back to the Andrew Plays channel. We are back today to review, if you remember way back last August, or if you're new here you may not remember because you might not have been here, we released a video predicting the Premier League table. I'm back today to have a look at how that came out, see how my predictions got on, and we've got a point system similar to what Spencer does, so we'll have a look at what we come out with. Hopefully somewhere around the 60 to 70 mark. Seems to be kind of average, I would say. But it'll be interesting to see what my thoughts were last year and see where the teams came out. So last year when I did these predictions, I went from bottom of the league to top of the league. I can't remember basically anything about it. So let's find out who we've predicted to finish bottom. So let's start off with 20th position. We have Watford. Now, okay, that's a good start. This looks a bit silly when Villa have just lost 3-2 to them. It was actually a very, very good prediction. One place away from being correct. All it would have took is one of their wins not happening. You know, possibly if Manchester United had figured out how to beat a team that got relegated instead of losing 4-1 to them, then this prediction would be correct. Does concern me. Where did I end up putting Norwich? And then in 19th, I've gone with Norwich. And again, that's the team where they obviously got promoted a couple of years ago. Yeah. Got relegated. They've come straight back up. But I haven't really seen much of them that's changed. Okay, so my second team, again, one place away from being correct. Another cracking prediction to start off this video. Yeah, getting the first two teams one place away from each other is a really good start. Obviously, next up, you have Burnley finishing 18th in real life. I get the feeling that I didn't predict them. I can't remember who I predicted, but I don't think it was Burnley. I think I alluded to the fact that I didn't think they had long left in the Premier League. But I didn't think it would be this year. And the final team that I've got going down, obviously Burnley in real life, a team that have sold a guy who gets you tons of goals, and I'm not convinced they've replaced him adequately. I know who. That's Southampton. Let's talk about Southampton. I feel like they've been obviously they're referring to the fact that Danny Ings left to go to Aston Villa. And they were kind of relying on Adam Armstrong going into the season. In the end, I think Adam Armstrong, to be fair, didn't perform, which I think I allude to in this video. He didn't really perform this year. But nevertheless, elsewhere on the pitch, they made up for it. They weren't massively safe. They were 15th, only 5 points clear of the relegation zone. Although, just seeing here, they lost 5 out of their last 6 games, so they probably were a little bit safer than that looks. But nevertheless, not a horrendous prediction given that they did finish 15th. A bit of a dip for the last couple of years. They've been beaten 9-0 twice in those 2 years as well. They have. And then Danny Ings leaving. Didn't get beaten 9-0 this year. They brought in Adam Armstrong. I know he got a goal at the weekend just gone. But I still don't think he's going to replace Danny Ings in the way that they need him to. And I was right on that prediction there. Southampton will be the one that go down. But it also could be Brighton. Because... Okay. Gonna stop you right there, past Andrew. That is a stinker of a prediction. Brighton went on to finish 9th. Now, I believe my thinking behind this was the fact that the year before, like, their XG was like -8 or something ridiculous. And I kind of leaned into the fact that they didn't sign a striker, so it was going to be a similar story. I think in reality, I probably should have looked at it a different way and said, well, logically speaking, if they were scoring that many less goals than they should have been scoring, then really I should have predicted them to finish higher, because surely they can't be that poor at finishing again. The big thing about Brighton is they struggle to score goals. There we go. And that hasn't improved because they haven't, as far as I'm aware,
they haven't signed a new striker.
I don't think they did.
So if you're not going to sign a new striker when you don't score enough goals...
Out of interest, their top goal scorer, to be fair, Malpe with 9 goals, which, you'd think really you need a lot more goals than that from your main striker. But Brighton, defensively, have made it work. Like, they've only scored 42 goals, which is one of the lowest in the league outside of the teams that got relegated. But then their goals conceded, 44. It's actually it's the second highest when you go outside the top 4, which is fantastic, to be fair to them. And I think that's where last year, I say last year, like the year before this, I think they conceded more and didn't score. Whereas this year, they really, rather than what I predicted they needed to do in scoring more, they instead just stopped conceding as much. So I was on the right lines, but just they did the opposite of what I thought they needed to do.
I think within 2 or 3 seasons, unless there's something done about it, I think Brighton will go next year. I think Burnley might go with them, depending.
So what I'm saying there isn't too far away from. I can understand what I'm saying. Yeah, yes, Brighton was a stink of a prediction, but the logic behind it is there. It's just I didn't account for them doing the other part of it instead. Then Burnley, obviously, I've just mentioned there, I think they would go down next season or the year after. They went down this year, but still not a bad prediction. But how high did I predict Burnley this year?
Then 16th, we've got Brentford. So okay. I see them surviving. I think they've got Ivan Toney. He looks like he's going to be a very good player. They obviously got the 2-0 win against Arsenal. Saw that coming a million miles away. I don't know why. I just...
So, obviously, Brentford predicted them to finish in 16th. They ended up finishing 13th. I was right in respect of Ivan Toney. He picked up 14 goals, their top goal scorer for the year. Visser also picking up 10 goals for himself. So, again, not a bad prediction. I'm only 3 places away from the correct position. And they really were a very entertaining team to watch. From their 3-3 game with Liverpool. They felt a bit like Blackpool from like that 2010-11 season. Wherever they went, they'd have a good go. And I think that plays against what you expect a team coming up from the Premier League to do. If they can keep doing that, I think it bodes well for them. Because I think what you find a lot of times is the teams do that for the first year or so, then they start to shut up shop again. If Brentford just keep having a go, I think it'll work well for them.
When you look at them against those 4 teams below them, the thing they've got is goal scorers.
And again, that I think is a very good point. And again, like I say, I think there's logic behind everyone I've picked so far. As I mentioned, Brighton, their top goal scorer, had 9 goals. If we go and look very quickly, if I have a look at Southampton, their top goal scorer, 11 goals, but it was James Ward-Prowse. That's not where you expect your goals to be coming from. If we go and look at Norwich, they only scored 23 goals all season. Pukki got 11 goals. The second best scorer was 4. Now, admittedly, in this, I did say Pukki I didn't think was Premier League level. 11 goals is pretty decent in the team that he's in. He was much better than the first time they were in the Premier League. Well, not first time, but the most recent time. And then Watford, again, if we just have a quick look at their top goal scorer, 10 goals through Bonaventura. And outside of that, not a lot. There's definitely logic in my predictions so far, which is nice to see.
Then we've got Newcastle in 15th.
So Newcastle, 15th. They actually finished 11th, so 4 places away. But halfway through the season, if I looked back at this, I'd have thought, oh God, what have I done? Because obviously that start with Steve Bruce was horrendous. Eddie Howe came in, turned the ship right around, and they've done really well in the end to climb up the way that they have. I reckon if you looked at one of the past positions things, theirs would be a really sharp increase up the table. That, to be fair, the prediction isn't horrendous. Again, halfway through the season, it looks pretty good.
Steve Bruce, not a pretty manager, but I think he's got enough to get the job done. They've got goals in Callum Wilson.
Well, I was wrong there. Steve Bruce was not the manager to do it. I also went on to say Callum Wilson has goals in him. Only 8 goals for Callum Wilson.
14th, we've got Burnley. If anything, I'd probably swap them and Brentford, if I'm being honest. If I was
okay, probably something you should have done there, past Andrew. Burnley obviously relegated this year. 14th seems odd when I watched this video back and I've said I think Burnley will be gone in the next year or so. To then predict them to finish 14th doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind.
In 13th, we've got Palace. I'm putting a lot of faith in Vieira there.
Faith well placed, my dear past Andrew. Crystal Palace actually finished in 12th, so I was again 1 place away from getting that prediction exactly right. I kind of went down the route of not necessarily thinking Palace were that good, but more that they were better than the people I was putting below them.
In 12th, and this will be a controversial one, I've got Leeds. And
why is it controversial?
I think it might be a bit of bias because I'm a United fan.
I think you've actually been generous to them, but carry on.
But I feel like a lot of teams, they come up, they have this really good year, then second season syndrome kicks in. I don't think they're going to suffer in the way Sheffield United did, for example.
They did. Wasn't good.
I think there will be a drop-off, though.
There was.
Because the high-intensity football they play, I feel like they haven't got the squad depth to do that.
And that kind of stands to reason when we consider that Patrick Bamford ended up missing the large majority of the season. He only scored 2 goals this year. I don't know how many games he played. Let's have a quick look. Only 7 games Patrick Bamford played, so that is a big miss for them. In the end, it actually looks like I've been incredibly generous, despite the fact that I mentioned a bit of bias. I think it stands to reason that you seem to get quite often one team out of like the promoted teams does really well. Yeah, Sheffield United did it, then they got relegated. Even going back years, Reading had a really good first year, then they went down. I think early 2010s it happened with Wolves. Maybe not to the same extent, but it definitely, you see it happen quite a bit. And I am quite happy to see Leeds in that position. But I do think there's that little bit of me that's, I'm going to struggle next year to put Brentford much higher. Because I get this feeling they could be the next team that suffer from it. I could be wrong. And we'll see what I predict, what future me predicts later on in this year. But it is something that I will be keeping in mind.
This one's not going to be fun. Arsenal in 11th.
You didn't call that one, alright.
Now, I realise this is going to cause some trouble.
Mainly, future you calling you an idiot.
But I don't rate them. Everyone.
You probably should rate them a bit more than you have, though. Like, come on.
But I just don't see Arsenal as part of the Big Six anymore. I see
that. If I was a bigger content creator, that clip's all over the place.
Leicester as part of the Big Six.
Oof, that's a big call.
Arsenal.
That's a big call. That was a bad call. Let's be real. Let's not try and call it something it's not. That was just a bad call.
In 10th, I've gone with West Ham.
Okay.
Because I think that they've got a really strong squad at the moment.
Yeah.
Antonio is scoring goals for fun. They've got Declan Rice, holding midfielder, one of the best holding midfielders in the league at the moment.
To be fair, Antonio, 13 goals this year. Still pretty good season for him.
And he dictates play really well. He did really well with England in the Euros. I think the fact that they've got European football is what makes me think they're going to drop off just that little bit.
So, again, I can see the logic in what I was saying here because we saw it with Wolves a couple of years before. And we do see it with a lot of teams where they get into Europe and the year after, it happened to Burnley as well. The year after they struggle because of the not having the squad depth to play like Thursday, Sunday.
If you're a West Ham fan, would you trade a lower finish in the league, still safe? I don't think West Ham will be in trouble of relegation at all.
Very good.
But would you trade, a 12th place finish instead of, where were you last year? 6th, I think. Would you trade that for a run to like the Europa League semi-finals?
As it turns out, they didn't need to trade it. Obviously, this year they ended up with the Europa Conference League, but nevertheless, they still got they stayed in European football. They got their run to the semi-final. They outperformed my expectations. I'm not going to lie. I thought they'd struggle with the European football as well. I was in no way doubting West Ham as a team, just doubting how they would deal with European football. It was, again, I'm not unhappy with this prediction because it was based on previous seasons where we've seen teams that have European football then struggle in the league. West Ham defied that. If anything, they went against the odds to do that. So I'm not unhappy with the prediction. Fair play to you, West Ham. But I think I was justified in what I was saying.
9th, I have Wolverhampton Wanderers. And
1 place away. 3 goals away from getting this one right. If Manchester United hadn't lost 4-0 to Brighton, I would have got this right. If they'd just lost 1-0, this would be correct. Damn.
I think Nuno was getting a little bit stale. I think he'd been figured out a bit.
It does appear that way. I think Wolves have been better this year than they were in the final year under Nuno. Obviously, Nuno then went to Tottenham, got sacked very early in the season. I'm not sure how much that was his fault as much. I think the whole Harry Kane situation unsettled the dressing room for him. Therefore, there probably wasn't a lot of faith in him, unfortunately.
I've gone with the team that I think has had one of the strongest transfer windows, Aston Villa. Yes, they've lost Grealish, but they did a really smart thing. Okay. They spent the Grealish money before they sold Grealish. So
makes a good point.
Because if they don't, they probably don't get one of those players that they've bought in. Because
yeah, that's a good point in what happened in the transfer window. Because when you sell a player for 100 million, you go and buy a player for 30 million. He's now going to cost you 40 million. And Villa did well. They spent the money, then sold Grealish, so that wasn't affecting their transfers. It just didn't quite go right for them under Dean Smith earlier on in the season. And then Gerrard came in, turned it around a little bit for them. It's not the season I think Villa would have expected. I think Villa would have expected a better season than this. Probably, maybe not 8th. Maybe that was me being a bit overly nice. But maybe more around 10th or 11th, I think, would have been what Villa would have been expecting. They weren't far away from it, to be fair. But I think 14th in the end was a little bit of a disappointing season for them and not a great prediction.
But in 7th, I've gone with Everton. And those are the two in particular that could be either way.
That is a terrible pair of predictions. To go back to back, when you look at the ones that we've had so far, there's not been many that are too far away. I mean, Leeds and Arsenal together, not great. Villa and Everton, this is horrendous. Everton, 9 places away from where I predicted. You know what? I don't want to hear it, past Andrew. I don't want to hear it. Basically, I went on to talk up Rafa Benitez being this great manager, and I'm not saying he's not a good manager, but Everton, he sucked.
6th, I've gone with Harry Kane. Basically Harry Kane FC. Tottenham. There's something about Tottenham that I just don't think they're that good.
You got that one a little bit wrong. Obviously, I mean, massively helped by the fact that they've got Son and Kane. 24 goals for Son this year, 27 goals for Kane.
I think they've got some good players. Son is phenomenal, but then you've got a bit of a dodgy defence. I think Luis is starting to go a bit shaky in goal. And there's something about their midfield that I don't like.
I kind of stand by that. their midfield, I still don't think it's great. I think they've done well to get top four with the team that they've got this year. I don't think they've got that good of a team. I think their defence... I mean, when you look at like the way the race for the top four played out, from about 15 games to go, it was kind of like all teams weren't really sure if they wanted to get top four. And at the end, Tottenham decided, yeah, we want to get top four.
I know, boy, is this a controversial one.
Oh, what have you done?
Liverpool.
Oh.
Now, hear me out. First of all,
don't want to hear him out.
There's a little bit of bias seeping in there.
A little bit.
However, I think at the moment, particularly at the time of recording, I didn't know how Van Dijk was going to come back from that injury. It was a really bad injury.
Okay.
And it can really shake someone's confidence.
Okay, that's not wrong.
That isn't the case for Van Dijk. Because
it really wasn't,
he is a phenomenal player. I hope he comes back full of confidence and doesn't doubt himself. But I know it's very...
Yeah, I mean, the injury that Van Dijk had, it could have derailed a lot of his season. And even though, as a Manchester United fan, it hurts to see Liverpool doing so well, I am glad that he's, not... His form hasn't dropped at all. He's come back. He's still been a phenomenal defender. Well done to him for, having the mentality to come back from an injury like that. It can't be easy to come back from an injury like he had. However, 5th place, what was I thinking?
I've gone with Leicester. Finally getting the Champions League spot. They've missed out on it for 3 years, I think, now. They've come so close.
Yeah.
I think twice they've gone into the final day. Even in the top 4, I think last year they weren't. I think they were just out.
Yeah, so like last 3 seasons before this one, on the final day they had a chance of getting top 4. The year before this, it was United denied them on the final day through Bruno and Lingard, I believe, got the goals. I made the call that Leicester would get top 4. As it turns out, they didn't have the best of seasons. They had a few injuries throughout the season as well, to be fair, which I think affected them quite a lot. And because of the injuries, Brendan Rodgers was having to change their formation a lot, which meant they probably couldn't really get settled in on what they wanted to do until it was a bit too late to make that push. They had a good run in Europe, to be fair. I think, was it the semi-finals they got to? That may have played a part in them not being able to perform quite as well in the league. But it was a good season for them when you consider, getting to a European semi-final, finishing 8th. I reckon next year, because they now won't have European football, they could have a decent push next year.
3rd, and I did this list just before Lukaku signed. I've got Chelsea. And part of the reason was I didn't know they were going in for Lukaku.
Now, I do remember, to be fair, that's not really my fault. That transfer did come out of nowhere.
In truth, I think the top 3 could be in any order. I think it will be a 3-way title battle.
It wasn't until January.
And they could finish in any order for me. I would potentially push Chelsea up to 2nd. There's still that one transfer that I'm holding out on. I think Lukaku will come in and he'll get goals.
So overall, what I've said here about Chelsea is, yes, Lukaku's coming in, but it's their goals behind him. I know, like last year, Havertz didn't have a great first season in the Premier League. If I remember correctly, he only got like 2 or 3 goals. This year, he got 14 goals in all competitions, so he really stepped up. Pulisic was a bit better. Mason Mount has actually had a really good year, 13 goals. And their defence was really good as well. I mean, what are they? They've only conceded 33 goals, which is massively less than the rest of the league, bar the top 2. However, predictions-wise, got them bang on.
And now we've got the top 2. And I would like to preface this. This is, as it stands, how I think it will finish.
Oh, no.
I think this is the year United win the league.
And
City.
Oh, past Andrew, you were so deluded. Instead, Manchester United had an absolute disaster of its season. It has not been fun being a Manchester United fan this year. We obviously finished 6th. It could have been a lot worse if not for De Gea and Ronaldo. City obviously winning the league on the final day.
Sign Kane. If City sign Kane, you can swap those two around.
They didn't sign Kane, but you can still swap them around and then move Manchester United down a little bit, mate.
That's an official prediction.
So, yeah, Manchester United bias took over towards the end there. I can't help it. You know, I think anyone ends up giving their club a couple extra positions because if you can't be ambitious and optimistic, what's the point in football? If you can't say, oh yeah, I think my team's going to smash it out of the park this year, even if you don't think they're going to win the league, what's the point if you don't think they can do anything? Then you wouldn't love football the way that we do. I basically went on to say United needed a holding midfielder to go with Sancho and Varane. We got Ronaldo. Thank goodness we got Ronaldo. We still need a holding midfielder. We also need a right back, a left back, a centre back, a centre mid, and a backup striker. It's going to be a tough couple of years for United fans, but come on, Ten Hag. Hopefully he gets the backing that we need him to. But yeah, it's nice to see the table that I predicted. Overall, based on Spencer's predictions, I came out with 72 points, which I said at the start I wanted somewhere around 60 or 70. That's not too bad. It's only a couple that have, only the odd one or two that have really let me down. Like Everton and Villa, those were big losses. Arsenal was a decent loss. Leeds, not great either, and United, not great. Everyone else wasn't too far away. We got one exactly right, 4 that were one position away. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how those predictions have gone, apart from the fact that as a United fan, United didn't win the league like I predicted. But we'll do this again. Come August, I'll try and actually get out just before the league season starts. It's also nice that I just happen to have picked out my St Albans shirt while in the video. My St Albans in League 2 is in the background. That was a very fun save back when it happened. And, you know, big up St Albans is how I want to end this video. Big up St Albans. If you have enjoyed that, please do leave a like down below. Comment what you think of my predictions. Was there any that you look at there and instantly think, oh, that was stupid to begin with? I don't think there's many. Maybe Everton was a bit stupid to begin with, and Arsenal. But other than that, I think there was logic behind all the predictions. I will leave a link down below to the full video if you want to hear the full explanation of where I thought each team was going to finish, because I do go a bit more in detail in the original video. But subscribe if you are enjoying the content of the channel, and thank you very much for watching.